Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's a football podcast with one subtle difference. The guy that runs the football podcast isn't here. Now then, I know what you're thinking. Can you lot manage to get through the football podcast without the guy that runs the football podcast? Stay tuned to find out. Before we start, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Drop a review. Leave a 5-star review wherever you can leave a review, and we will love you for it. Share the podcast around. If you've got a football fan in your life, send this to them. You never know, they might appreciate it. Right, let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the football podcast.
Recording in progress.
Hello. You may be thinking, is this the wrestling podcast if Stu's talking first and he's got wrestling belts behind him and he's got a wrestling t-shirt on? No, it's not. We are back once again for some football action, but we are without the main man, the main presenter, if you like, of the football podcast, Mr. Paul Williams, as he had a very life-changing event this weekend, which I don't know if we're at liberty to discuss. We'll let Paul maybe.
Pauline will be back next week.
He will, as long as the recovery goes well, right? Yeah, cool. But yeah, he has been good enough to send me some predictions through. Of course, I've got all of the results and stuff from last week. So, I am joined by Mr. Andy Cook. Hello, sir.
Hello.
And Mr. Matthew Moore. Hello.
Hello.
So 3 of the 4 wheels are here to take you through this week's football podcast. Now, we might as well get stuck straight in because we've got quite a lot of predictions and results to get through, given that we've just gone past Easter weekend. So we will start in the northeast, where Sunderland took on Hull City. Now, myself and Mr. Moore were privy to watching this live, not in the ground, but in the pub, because it was live on Sky Sports. And everybody, I believe, was expecting a reasonably tight game. Yeah, so the final score was 4-4. Exactly. So,
wow.
If you're not on YouTube, get yourself over just for Andy's reaction then, because you've maybe not seen that. But yeah, 4-4 was the final score.
Wow.
And it was a really, really bizarre game. So Hull went 1-0 up on 11 minutes. 2-fan, decent finish. A little bit odd really, because it just, City were looking good and then fell apart within another maybe 10 minutes after that, letting in 2 goals within the space of 60 seconds of gameplay. So Geldart scored on 21 and then Diallo scored for Sunderland on 22 to put them 2-1 up. Not letting the game settle down straight away. Aliar Manesh went and banged in an equaliser on 25 minutes. And then it settled down a bit finally. It was frantic. The good news is that City obviously didn't give up, went in level at the break, so I was quite happy and probably the best part of 3 pints deep at this point. So very enjoyable half of football, aside from the fact that we couldn't defend for those 2 minutes. Second half, pretty much the same. Again, really, really odd. City went 3-2 up on 66 minutes with a Regan Slater goal. He's just bullying his way through, basically. Managed to, the Sunderland defender thought he was going to try and let it out for a goal kick, and Slater had the pace to get round him and bang it in from a really tight angle. But then, much the same as the first half went, of course, Sunderland had to equalise, but this time it was a penalty in the 73rd minute for Diallo. I remember saying to Mr. Moore at the weekend, I'll definitely watch this penalty incident. Yeah, still haven't seen it. So Matt might have to sort of partake in the claims for the validity of the penalty. But from what we saw on the night, Matt wasn't too convinced.
I thought it was a really soft penalty. There was pushing and shoving from both players, and then it looked like, I don't know if the Sunderland player tripped over the ball or just decided to do the good old trick that seems to be at the moment, is just lift both your feet up like a toddler throwing themselves to the it had kind of that kind of vibes to it, and the ref gave it. It seemed a really, really soft penalty. It wasn't, and I know that's not really the rule anymore, but in the past, obviously, he wasn't going anywhere either. It was kind of like, so maybe, the defender shouldn't have bothered, but it was a tussle. Yeah, and the guy just seemed to just lift his legs up, which seems to be the standard. There didn't seem to be any, there was definitely no contact from waist below. Like, there's no kind of tackle put in, there's no legs kind of thing. It just seemed to be, there's arms on me, I'm going to throw myself to the ground. The only way it could have been more farcical is if they both did it. I found it's a penalty that you see given, it's a penalty that you see not given. It's a 50-50 one, and it depends on what kind of referee you've got that day.
Officially on the report, it went down as Alfie Jones' tackle on Clark for their penalty. So not too sure really. I mean, they'd have been better off doing rock paper scissors for it by the sounds of it. But unfortunately, Diallo did step up and smack that one away. And then, on the 81st minute, Clark, the guy who won the penalty, actually scored to put Sunderland 4-3 ahead. And I was pretty much resigned to the fact that was it. Scored 3 goals away from home and we're getting nothing for it. But that wasn't to be. Slater was in receipt of the ball from, I think it was Ebby Always, crossed onto the edge of the box. And Eckworth went to tackle him. And Slater just hopped the ball over the top of his foot, and much as Matt said, I think he tried to lift both of his feet up, but even failed at that and just got booted.
He tried, but then actually got fouled. Kind of. This was a penalty. And if he tried to work it, he didn't work it very well. But he got the result he wanted anyway. But perhaps got a slight bruise.
Well, 2 fans stepped up, so he'd opened the scoring for the game, and then, thankfully for Hull, closed the scoring for the game to make it 4-4. And that was actually the very, very last kick of the game, was the penalty. So it was pretty non-stop from start to finish. Now, how does that lend to our points? Well, Paul had 1-0, so no points there, but he did have Diallo as the scorer, or a scorer. Matt, you had 1-1, and you'd picked Slater out of the goal scorers, so there's 2 points there. I also had 1-1, wasn't confident enough to pick one of my own correct goal scorers, but did pick one for Sunderland in Diallo, so that was 2 points for me. And Andy had picked 1-1 on the scoreline as well, so another draw sees everybody take a minimum of 1 point from that game, so 1 point for Andy. So after game 1, myself and Matt on 2, Paul and Andy on 1. Now then, we moved straight into an 8 o'clock kickoff, straight after the whole game had finished, which was Middlesbrough at home to league leaders and newly promoted Burnley. Now, again, we were in the pub for this. Couldn't really tell you what happened because I was too busy yapping and I'd had a few beers at this point. So I do remember from that Barnes scored early doors on 12 minutes for Burnley, much to the chagrin of Mr. Williams himself, who had joined us by this point. And not really much happening then until half time from what I can remember. I don't know if you could fill us in any more, Matt.
No, I think at that point he was watching but also talking. And we left at half time, didn't we?
Just after, I think, because I think we'd seen the penalty, which spoiler, there was a spoiler. Akpom managed to tuck away a penalty for Middlesbrough on 48 minutes to level the scoring. However, Burnley did get a winner in the 66th minute as Roberts put one past the Middlesbrough keeper. So, a Burnley 2-1 win. Not great for Middlesbrough. Maybe better for our point scoring, perhaps, you might ask. Well, Paul had picked his own team for a 1-1 draw. He did pick Akpom to score, so that's 1 point for Paul. Myself and Matt both picked the correct scoreline as Middlesbrough 1, Burnley 2. Matt had picked Akpom out as well, giving him 3 points. I had also picked Akpom out and Barnes, so that gives me 4 points from this game. Andy was on 1 point from the previous game, and is still on 1 point from the collective score from this game, as he picked 1-0 Middlesbrough to win. So obviously he hadn't, on a rare occasion, picked Akpom either. So it was unfortunate. So after 2 games, Andy on 1 point, Paul on 2, Matt on 5, and myself just sneaking a 1 point lead with 6 points. So yeah, we had. It feels like there was a load of games last week, which is nothing to do with the fact as to why Paul's away this week. It's just that did he put his holiday form into you before he left, Andy?
Yes, but I mean, I keep saying I do need like a month minimum, and he put it in like the week before, so I didn't get all the finer details sorted before today, basically.
Take it out of his wages.
Well, I was just about to say, short version is he's not getting paid for today. So.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be gutted when he listens to this. So we'll move on to game 3 then from last week's predictions, and that game took us to Villa Park to see Aston Villa take on Nottingham Forest. Mr. Moore, how was it?
As expected. From reading the reports, I mean, I didn't, I've not seen highlights or anything like that, but from reading reports, Forest set up in a 5-3-2 or a 3-5. They played 3 at the back with wing backs. In the short and long of it, I think that's probably something that Cooper's probably wanted to do more all season. And apparently it was working very, very well. Until star of the winter, January window signing, John Joe Shelby has done what he appears to have done solidly for Forest since he signed for them, which was give the ball to the other team and let them score. 1-0 to Traore. 1-0 goal by Traore, 1-0 to Villa. But then apparently the reaction from Forest was quite good as well. But unfortunately, obviously, chasing the game towards the end of the game, Niakete also went off injured towards the end of the game, apparently a hamstring injury. So for the last few minutes, they were playing with 10 men. And obviously, as they were trying to chase an equaliser, Ollie Watkins hit Forest on the break to make it 2-0. So I think reading the reports, again, it's which reports do you read? Some of the reports suggest not that bad, still a defeat, but a bit more in there. Probably a lot of people say 2-0 was the right score because Villa kind of had a quite good strong hold on the game, but actually without Niakete going off and Forest having to chase the game with 10 men, it might have been better, but still, rumours of Steve Cooper being sacked, blah 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 blah, pointless. Oh look, they spent 200 million, all that horse shit. But yeah, and now we're in the relegation zone. I forgot about that one because Fulham can't beat Bournemouth apparently. So yeah, marvellous relegation zone.
It's going to be the second successive season where Bournemouth do something to piss Forest fans off for from January through to the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean it's genuinely infuriating because they look like a team that didn't bother trying to stay in the Premier League. They didn't, I know it's not all about buying everybody. Because look at Forest, we bought players, and it's not really made that much of a difference. But they've not bought anybody, and they don't. They've got Gary O'Neill as their manager and stuff like that, and you kind of think, and they're going to shithouse their way to staying in the Premier League because Leicester have employed Dean Smith as a manager. Southampton, after the initial bump of sacking Nathan Jones, has not that seems to have worn off with their guy, and Forest have got a terrible run in, really, unless something shocking happens over the next 8 games. There's somehow the 3 that are in there at the moment would probably be my pick to go down, and that unfortunately includes Forest.
It's still ridiculously tight though, as well, isn't it? Like it has the potential to go right down to the wire, all the way.
Oh yeah.
I know, you don't want to be too optimistic because if you've heard us before, you'll know how we roll by now. But I've been in that position with City, and it's been down to the last day and stayed. I think we ended up staying up on goal difference, and it's not fun. But it's interesting, but it's not fun.
Oh God, if it goes down to the last day, then someone will have to peel me off the floor, kind of thing. Because I can't do another. Yeah, it's like last day of the season last year, last day of the season this year.
You need a new hallway carpet from wearing it out from walking up and down the whole time.
Oh no.
Right then, well, not great news for Forest, but was it good news for the scoring? Well, in many aspects, yes. However, not for Andy, who picked up 1 point again this time, just the 1 point. For Watkins scoring, but his 1-1 scoreline. Optimism doing him no favours again this week. However,
You win some, you lose some.
Myself, Matt and Paul had all picked 2-0 Villa. So 2 points apiece there. And everybody, it seems, picked Watkins this week. So Paul, Matt and myself picking up 3 points each in total from that game. So points for the week sees Andy on 2, Paul on 5, Matt on 8, and myself still just holding on with 1 point on 9, which took us to our last game of the Easter festivities. There's another, what was it, last game actually? No, that's a lie. Second to last game, which took us to the MKM Stadium. Hull were at home to Millwall. And it seems that Traore, having popped one in for Villa on Sunday, made a nice little trip up to Hull and popped. Oh no, it's definitely a different guy. Popped one in for Hull on 70 minutes. Millwall are now without a win in 4 and absolutely clinging on for playoffs. If anything is right in this world, please don't let Millwall get in the playoffs, because nobody needs to see that. They did, however, hit the bar in the first half and definitely were on top against Hull. Liam Rossinier, not shy of making a bold change, and it's almost becoming a bit of a calling card, spotted that things weren't working and made 3 substitutions at half-time. Elder, Longman and Traore all coming on. And obviously the last one was the game-winning decision, I guess, as he bagged his first goal for the club with a nice finish to the bottom left-hand corner. So, Paul had picked 1-1, no points. I'd picked Hull to lose 1-0, so I got the score the wrong way around. No points. Matt had picked 1-1. Unfortunately, no goal scorer, so no points. However, the guy who's been bringing up the rear so far decides to leave it till the penultimate game to start turning it on, and had predicted a 1-0 Hull win. Unfortunately didn't get the goal scorer, but does net himself 2 points. Is the comeback on? You do need at least 5 points from the last game, Andy, to draw level.
Fine.
But yeah,
Fine, I'm not worried.
After the penultimate game of the predictions, Andy's on 4, Paul's on 5, Matt is on 8, and I'm still hanging on with 9. So, definitely last game this time as well, of the Easter period. Trip down to Ashton Gate, I believe, Bristol City, taking on Middlesbrough. I finished 2-2, so another high-scoring draw for one of our sides this week. There was a goal in injury time in the first half. Bell scored for Bristol right at the end of the half to make that 1-0 to Bristol. However, things did get slightly worse after the break, and Cornick scored for Bristol as well to make it 2-0. To all intents and purposes, I wondered where this was going when I was sort of following the results coming through. However, much like Hull on Friday night, Borough didn't give it up. Ramsey scored on 58 minutes. And then Crooks, they're now lesser spotted. Crooks' goal going in on 64 minutes to make it 2-2. So, points-wise, Paul had picked Borough to win 2-0. Didn't really work out, did it? But Ramsey did score for him, so that's 1 point for Paul. I picked a 1-1 draw, so that's a point for the result. Matt had picked Borough to win 2-1, but also had picked Ramsey, so nets himself a point. Now the big one, could Andy catch us up? No. He predicted Middlesbrough to win 2-0, so he did get the right amount of goals for the Borough, just the wrong amount of goals for Bristol, and unfortunately didn't get the goal scorer either, because two people other than Akpom and Archer decided to pull their finger out their ass this week, apparently. So the final scores for the week, Andy on 4, Paul on 6, Matt on 9, and myself on 10 points. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we have actually worked out why Paul wins when he wins, because he does the book. I did the book this week. Turns out them's the rules. If you want to check all the scores, obviously feel free to go back and listen to last week's and check it all out. But it is legit. And now I will no longer be able to say anything to Paul when he definitely does not cheat his way through it. So that's it. So that was the results of last week's predictions. Now, before we get into the predictions for week 35, I definitely have some injury news from Hull. So Hull are definitely unlikely to have Oscar or Connolly for the weekend. So Oscar is Oscar Estepinian. Connolly is Aaron Connolly. Oscar has been out with a bit of an ankle injury. It's not really been sort of talked about too much. I know if you remember, we talked about he had an injection for some discomfort previously. Well, as the weeks go on, they're now sort of localising at least where the injury is. Turns out it's his ankle. Connolly is still recovering from his stubbed toe, / potentially broken toe from, I don't know what that's from. I'm not sure if he just got up for a piss in the middle of the night, to be honest.
But, more importantly, who am I supposed to pick for goal scorers now?
Well, the good news is, after he went off on Monday with a dead leg, Ryan Longman is set to make a return this weekend. So you do have one of the old guard there.
And quite honestly, I can't imagine my scoring this week will reflect that in any way, shape or form.
Well, we will have to wait at least one game to find out, as we will start proceedings at Middlesbrough this week. Did we want to just maybe recharge our glasses, collect our thoughts a little bit before we set into the predictions?
It's entirely up to you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's recharge. Just have a little think about what's to come. Make sure you've got that injury news settled in, and then let's come back in the blink of an eye. Listeners and viewers won't even realise it's happened, and we will be right back with the predictions for week 35's games.
Recording in progress.
Did you blink? Told you we'd be back. Here we are. Right. Settled. Ready. let's have some predictions. So the first match on the slate this week for week 35 is Middlesbrough at home to playoff contenders Norwich City. Norwich not been going amazingly of late, but then similarly Middlesbrough finally hit that patch where they've lost the game, albeit to league leaders, and then drawn. Again, albeit away from home. What will the predictions throw up this week? Well, as I said, I do have the predictions of one Mr. Williams, so he will go last, even though he's not in the room, but it's still his team. Bear in mind, gents, he is not in the room this week, so you do not have to give him a single solitary goal if you do not wish to do so. Andy, do you want to kick us off this week? How is Middlesbrough Norwich going to turn out for you?
Well, knowing that he wasn't going to be in the room, I was not going to give him a goal. Instead, I was going to give him 2 goals, 2-0 to the Borough. And I am not making the same mistake more than once. Archer and Tuba to score those there goals.
Okay. Lovely stuff. That is noted down, good sir. So, Matt, how have you got this one?
I've gone very similar to Mr. Cook. Borough's got 2 goals. He's also got Akpom and Archer, but Norwich are going to get one because, Middlesbrough like to concede a goal. I've got Sargent for that goal.
Okay. And it's Josh Sargent, I believe, isn't it? The Afro Ginger guy from memory, and also they've got him accurately on FIFA. Yeah. So myself and Mr. Williams on a very similar page. However, I have gone 1-0 Akpom, and Paul has gone 1-0 Archer. So we'll see how that turns out. So yeah, all of us fully on board the Archer / Akpom. Well, Metro, I guess, if they have if they have that as far out as Middlesbrough. But yeah, that is what we've gone for. Everybody's expecting a home win, just varying degrees, it seems. So we move to Saturday night, a 7:45 kickoff on a Saturday night. Ewood Park, in front of the Sky cameras, Blackburn Rovers versus Hull City. So Paul has given me his predictions, so he can jump straight in here. He has gone for a 1-1 draw. Now, with Paul's history of picking Blackburn Rovers goal scorers, you'll be not surprised to hear that he has gone for Brereton. Not Brereton Diaz, just plain old Brereton to score for Blackburn, and Traore to continue and get his second for the club, all being well, on Saturday evening. So Paul's gone for 1-1. Matt, how are you scoring this one?
I've gone for the same score.
1-1.
And I've got Dolan and Tufan to score.
Okay. That's you noted in the book. Mr. Cook.
Quite frankly, there must be something in the water, as I not only have 1-1, I've got Brereton to score for Blackburn, but as apparently Hull have got nobody available to score any goals, Mr. Longman is coming firmly out of retirement from scoring goals to get back in the goals.
Part of me was convinced you were going to be like Carl Darlow. He's done everything else for Hull for the last 2 weeks, so he can be in goal and he can score them. You lot are way too optimistic, so I've gone for a Blackburn 2-0 home win with Brereton and Smodics to score. Can't see us getting much, as Andy said, without a recognised striker on the pitch potentially. Yeah, not optimistic, especially not on sort of main event prime time on Sky. That never seems to end well for Hull. So yeah, hopefully I will be wrong. Having Borough played actually on the Friday, Hull play on the Saturday, we move to Sunday. We've got the full weekend to our teams as Forest are host to Manchester United. Again, as per podcast rules, it's Matt's team, so he will pick last. Andy, would you like to pick first this time?
Obviously, I'll completely gloss over that I should also be picking last, and I will go with a 1-1 draw.
Okay. Bristol last week, Man U this week. It's like you just want to pick last or something.
I've got all the teams, Stu. You know that. If I'm not picking Johnson, there's something wrong with the world. So Johnson, and I was reliably informed that Rashford was out of the possibility to score. So scrambled to the website and went, I recognise any of these names. So I went with the first available name, in the hope of actually finding someone who plays, scores, maybe. I've gone with Marshall.
Yeah, Anthony Martial.
Yes.
Okay, lovely. It's in the book. Yeah, the
cool.
Injury reports were saying that Rashford had gone off injured in that last game, and was, not to pull the curtain back too much, but we're maybe a day ahead of schedule as per normal. We're obviously not waiting for Paul to do his hair this week. So we've, injury reports are saying it is unlikely that Rashford will play at the weekend, but we'll see. I have, unfortunately for that, gone with a 1-2. So I've got Gibbs-White to score for the Forest, and I have Fernandes and Weghorst for Manchester United. Paul, unfortunately, cannot apologise either with him not being here, but he has made things worse by predicting a 1-3. He does agree with Mr. Cook, because he has got his Johnson out, and he has also got his Martial out. He's gone for Anthony. Confusingly, when he sent me the predictions, he sent it through as Anthony Martial, and I was like, that's one guy, and then remembered that there is also Anthony for Manchester United. But even though he knew the rule, even though he knew the injury report that we just discussed, Paul is wondering if Forest are going to get Coopered, and he has picked Rashford still to score, so he's snuck a filthy little prediction in there just in case he does get back. We shall find out next week. Matt, that just leaves you to tell us, is Andy optimistic? Are we pessimistic? What's the score?
I've agreed with Mr. Williams.
Okay.
And gone for a 3-1 Manchester United win.
Okie dokie.
I've got a 1 year to score for Forest. I'm hoping that finally they'll put a proper striker on the pitch as opposed to this faffing about with forwards. Like, they're attacking players, but they're not pressing the defenders, so hopefully he'll get on and maybe kind of just spark back into life. And then I've gone Martial as well, Fernandes and Ericsson.
So we have got some cross-pollination across the predictions, but that last one, what was the last one again, Matt?
Got Martial, Fernandes and Ericsson.
Ericsson is a new name to the predictions. Okay, so that is 3 games locked and loaded. But again, forgive me. Now we've probably come to what could be described as the podcast main event in terms of predictions. And again, what a week for him to do a runner. I mean, he won't be running after what's happened to him. But yeah, Middlesbrough at home to Hull City. So the week that he could be here gloating about how his third in the league side are going to beat the 16th in the league side by 45 goals in 45 minutes. But he's not here. He's not here to discuss it. But seeing as Borough are the home team, I will give his prediction last. Andy, how have you got this? Have you actually gone for a winner, or is he sat firmly on the fence, is what I'm interested in here.
Come on, Stu. There was absolutely no way I was going to upset not one but 2 members of the podcast this week. So there was only one score that could possibly leave these lips, and that's a 1-1 draw. Now, the problem I had was, when I looked back over my predictions for this week, I predicted 1-1 in the last 3 games. So I was a bit like, eh. So I'd considered a 2-2 or even a 0-0, but them's the breaks. As is the way, I've gone with a different goal scorer to the previous Borough game, so I've gone with 4s. However, not being able to go with a different goal scorer for Hull, Longman's getting double duty this week.
Well, he better. I don't care if he scores all of the goals, for just as long as it's not for Borough, clearly. Also invoking the old boy rule in force, as well discussed between myself and Mr. Williams on the podcast, that 4s could not hit a cow's ass with a banjo when he played for Hull. However, he seems to have had it restrung by the time that he arrived on Teesside. So, Matt, how have you got this one?
Now, I'm going to upset you here. I've gone for the fact that Hull, you'd made comments about them looking very much on their holidays beforehand, and I think obviously with the result from combining Sunderland and the Millwall result, that is firmly safe now. So they're firmly looking at their kind of tickets to Sharm El Sheikh or wherever kind of your owner kind of owns some nice resort or something like that. So I've gone for a 2-1 Borough win.
Okay. And who have you got as the scorers?
Akpom and Ramsey for Borough.
Yep.
And Syed Manesh for Hull.
Okay, I will be with you in 1 second. However, it will take me about a week to write his name in the book. There we go. Right, so I am even less optimistic than Matt. I have gone for a Middlesbrough 3-0 win to go with the 3-1 win that they took at the MKM earlier this season. I have gone a little leaf out of Mr. Cook's book, the old boy rule, so I've gone for force for 1, because, to be honest, he's not going to score more than 1. And I have got somebody else down to score more than 1, however, an Akpom for 2 goals to make it 3-0 to Middlesbrough. Unfortunately, as Matt rightly said, the last couple of games have it's not mathematically safe, but it's near as damn it now. And without a lack of strikers in the side, it's looking unlikely that we're going to be particularly goal heavy, especially as we seem to have used up our quota just in a draw with Sunderland. Paul also believes that his home side are going to take a win. He has gone for a 2-0 Middlesbrough win and has also gone Akpom and Force, but just 1 each. So it's not looking good for Hull in the old predictions, apart from Mr. Cooks. I would absolutely take that right now. And again, it's another set of predictions where I'm entirely hoping I am wrong, but only time will tell. So that's it. That is last week's results, the bumper edition of results from Easter weekend, and just the 4 games from this week, not too shabby in and of itself. So, has anybody got anything else they wanted to talk about on the football this week?
No, I don't believe so.
I think we've kind of touched on it through the year. Obviously, the kind of National League and the interest in Wrexham and stuff like that. But obviously, Wrexham and Notts County played Easter Monday. Wrexham winning 3-2. I think, what is it? They're both on. I think Wrexham are on 103 points now. Notts County are on 100 points. And I think, obviously the game was a really good advert for non-league football. I think the kind of interesting thing is, obviously, what a surprise. Ryan Reynolds ingratiates himself to people because he is fastly becoming like the most popular man on the planet, kind of thing, taking the mantle from the Dwayne. Obviously kind of came up with it. There was a post-match interview where it was like, this is ridiculous that one of us has got to go into the playoffs at the end of this after getting 100 points. And I don't know how far away they are from the team below, but I suspect it's a good chunk. I'll try and get it up quickly, but I just thought it was kind of like the whole kind of rhetoric of the kind of that game. So yeah, they're 24 points ahead of Woking, who are in third. And that's Notts County, which, you know, in a league like that, that's quite stunning that both clubs are over 20 points ahead of the third place team.
And as well, just the other ace up their sleeve that Wrexham have is not only did they end up winning that game, which was absolutely bonkers. I think they were 1 up, then 2-1 behind, and then ended up winning 3-2, and then had they saved a penalty which would have caused the draw in like something like the 96th minute or something. So that was nuts. But yeah, the other ace they have up their sleeve is the fact that they still, even on 103 points, have a game in hand over second place as well, which is just, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. I know obviously they can't just change the rules for one season to let both of them go up, but I don't think there'd be that many people, unless you're a Woking fan, be that disappointed about it. It's just, it's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
If County win their last 3 games, which I think they've got left, they'll end up on 109 points. 109 points and still not get promoted. Not have promotion guaranteed, which is just outstanding. You know, obviously, realistically, Wrexham could end up with 115 points for the season, which, considering their wage bill and what they've spent, fair enough that maybe they should get to that amount of points, but also it's quite an outstanding achievement, kind of, when you look at it.
Whilst we're on National League, briefly as well, a little mention, unfortunately, for Scunthorpe, Hull's local rival, once great local rival, now not so much. 2 relegations confirmed in 2 seasons, as they went down to the National League last year and have then again been relegated this year, which was confirmed at the weekend. So they will be going down into National League North now, I believe, to play such local derbies as Scarborough, and against the Paul's favourite third team, Darlington, if they don't make the playoffs this year as well. So a little bit of interest in that. I was also just going to give a brief mention to the England ladies again. I know we touched on that in the summer, so it was a little while since we talked about them. But they got to play in the first ever finalissima, I think was the pronunciation. So as they won the Euros, they played against the winners of the Copa America, which was Brazil, at Wembley. Went 1-0 up, as seems to be the way this week in football, letting an equaliser in the 93rd minute or something like that, and the game went straight to penalties. They did end up winning a penalty shootout, and it was the first penalty shootout that the England women have actually won. So, very interesting game to watch, and again, one with a crackers finish. But yeah, more silverware for the England women. But that is it. That is all I had this week. And if that's it from you guys, then that just leaves me to say thank you very much for joining us. Next week, normal service, we presume, will be resumed. Let us know how you feel about that in the comments, obviously. And wish him all the best with his, with what happened to him at the weekend, because I'm sure he'll appreciate your wishes. And I'll let him drop the news next week. Right, cheers, guys, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye. So there you go. What do you think to that? Fingers crossed Paul's doing well and he'll be back next week. And if not, maybe we'll do the same again. Who knows? Big thank you for listening. Big thank you for watching. If you're still here at this point in time and you haven't clicked the subscribe button, I think we both know what you need to do. That's right. Like, share, subscribe, comment, leave us a review. You can check out the website. It's thecookiecast.com. There you can find social media links and an email button. That way you can get in touch with us in whichever is your preferred method. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to these grumpy old men talk about football. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share and subscribe.